the president of the ANC, but of course he does wear the hat of being the president of the country, so we can't divorce him from that. As much as we will speak about the ANC matters, so there are matters, very pressing matters, that are affecting the country that we'll definitely speak to the president about. Mr. President, thank you very much for talking to us. In fact, I might just indicate to you that you're speaking to a number of South Africans, quite millions, because we're not only tuned to the SABC TV news channel, but also our radio current affairs. All major public radio current affairs are tuned in. So you are speaking to quite a number of people as the president of the ANC and, of course, as the president of the country. Welcome to SABC News.
Thank you very much. It's good to be here.
Well, I'm glad finally we are talking again after chasing you for quite some time. So, this is September. I just want to start with a very significant moment that happened in the September month. The reopening of the inquest of Steve Biko, quite a huge development, and I think in our history and knowing where we are, where we're from, so that's quite an important milestone. Just a few words on that.
Well, this is September indeed, a very sad month in the political and I would say social calendar of our country, in that this is the month in which Steve Biko was callously murdered. I was a chairperson of the South African student organization at the university, and I was in many ways also working with Steve Biko. He came to our campus. So much as I did not really get to know him that well, his death was a blow to all of us as South Africans, because in Steve Biko we saw a leader who was leading our people and raising the issue of all of us being conscious of who we are and ridding many of our people of this mentality that the apartheid rulers had tried to impose on us. So that was a real terrible, devastating blow to us. Now, we've reopened the commission, the inquest, and the process that we've set in place is meant to uncover the truth, to uncover precisely how Steve Biko was murdered. And it is an important process to all of us, because the truth must really set all of us free, the perpetrators as well as all of us who were victims in many ways of the passing of Steve Biko. But Steve Biko also left a very powerful and good legacy, a legacy that many people have taken forward in prosecuting the struggle to the 1994 elections, and also in his remembrance we need to do better in terms of serving the interests of our people, which is precisely what Steve Biko stood for.
Knowing what Steve Biko stood for in terms of liberating everyone, and then of course when everyone is liberated, in terms of getting everyone prosperous. So are you happy, or do you think Steve Biko would be proud of the kind of South Africa that we are today, given the challenges that we are having?
Our challenges are enormous at economic level, at social level, and in many, many other ways, governance as well. Yeah. So much still needs to be done. But we should never forget that what Steve Biko and many others died for was achieved when we got the vote. But much more work still needs to be done. For instance, in terms of the economy, we need to ensure that what was set out in the Freedom Charter, that the wealth of the country must be shared by all. We need to ensure that the democracy that was won in 1994 becomes a reality in the lives of people, because people cannot eat the vote. People cannot extract a livelihood just out of the vote. They need to feel and have a sense that their livelihoods are getting better, they are progressing. So no, I'm not satisfied with where we are. We need to be in a much better place. having made the progress that we have made since 1994, as Nelson Mandela said in his book, that I've traveled far and long on my journey. I have climbed a number of hills, but there are still many, many hills and mountains that I still need to climb. So I cannot tarry, I cannot wait for too long. And that is very descriptive of our lives as South Africans, that we cannot wait. There's still much that needs to be done. And along the way, we stumble, fall, and rise, and stand up, and run, and walk. And that is the life journey, I would say, of any country and of any individual. So you fall so that you can rise. And now we need to pick ourselves up at all levels, as government, as communities. And that is why the national dialogue is so important, to enable all of us to have a conversation about where we want to go and what needs to be done.
I think you touched on the issue of the economy, Mr. President, which is quite important. And I think it is one area which, if unlocked fully to its potential, many of the problems we are facing will be dealt with. You've been engaged as this administration and the previous administration in terms of the structural reforms to ensure that this economy benefits everyone. So those reforms that you have instituted, so are you happy with them? Do you think they are doing enough to address the challenges you're speaking about?
One of the things that has contributed to our low growth is the lack of the reforms that needed to be put in place. And in the past, we've also had state capture that held us back, particularly in debilitating and weakening our state-owned enterprises, which play a critical role in the economic life of our country. The network industries were negatively affected, as in electricity, as in our logistics. The goods that we produced, we could not take out for export or to the markets very quickly, because our rail has really, really been badly affected. Yeah. Our roads as well, our ports as well. So all those network industries, we even delayed in releasing the spectrum for faster internet connectivity and reducing the costs of data. Yeah. And so many of those areas needed reforms. We've started with those reforms. Operation Vulindlela, which is located in the presidency, and with the active participation and involvement of Treasury, but not only Treasury, all other affected government departments have been involved. So through that, we've been breaking down the silos, making sure that we move ahead with speed with our reforms, repair our ports, our rail, and all that. Now, am I satisfied with what we are achieving? Yes and no. Yeah. No, because I want us to move faster. Yeah. We now need to look at local government. We now need to introduce reforms that are going to enable our local government to work better. So reform is now the order of the day. What will reform do? It will unlock the levers of our economy, and it will make our country much more investor attractive. Both local and international investors will look at our country and say, these people are serious. They are ensuring that electricity is always available and sustainable, which we are doing, which we have done. And we are now attending to the grid. Our grid needs 14,000 kilometers of installation. Where will the money come from? We are raising the money to make sure that we strengthen our electricity generation.
But also, just looking at the economy itself, I think there's also a lot that I think we should look at, I think, as a country. I mean, look at our debt ratio to the GDP.
Yes.
77%.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
And it's hindering growth.
Indeed. Our macroeconomic policies must be so well aligned to the objective of growth. And that is why one of our key priorities as a government of national unity is to generate more growth, to increase employment, and to make South Africa investor friendly. And by so doing, we'll be able to raise our revenues, and we'll be able to also reduce our debt. Our debt is far too high at the moment. So we need to reduce debt, raise our revenue, and with that, we will then be able to have what we call a budget surplus.
In fact, talking about growing our economy, and most of the economists really have been saying, given the options we have, we may actually have to revisit the issue of tax. I know that at the beginning of the year it was a hot potato, but it looks like in terms of the options of trying to find extra funds, we may have to go to tax. Are you ruling that possibility out completely, or it may be on the table?
Well, the issue of tax is always on the table, because if you want the country to move ahead, if you want to generate more financial resources, you've got to look at sources of revenue, sources of finance. Debt is one of those, and we now know what debt does. And being able to raise taxes is one of those. Now, you have to have a balance. And we cannot just say we're going to increase taxes or whatever. It depends on where our economy is. And that is why the whole process of developing our budget is so thorough. And when the Minister of Finance stands up to deliver the budget in February, he will have gone through a thorough process, which involves our provinces, which involves our various ministries, and we will then see through taxation, through revenue collection, what the gap is going to be. And then a decision is taken. So I cannot sit here and say, we're going to increase taxes. No. And in the end, it is a call that has to be made when the budget has to be.
So is the issue that is not completely off the table?
Well, the revenues have to be going up. So we need to raise revenue. We need to get the economy to pump, to increase the level of taxes that we collect and efficiency of the tax collection and all that. So I cannot sit here and say we're going to increase taxes. No. I cannot stand here and say we're going to let our economy just continue in the way we are. We want to grow the economy, and there are various ways of growing the economy, and that is why we are focusing on our reforms. Our reforms are the instruments that we need to make sure that our economy continues to grow. And countries that have turned their economies around have focused on reforms. And that's what we are focused on now, to ensure that the reforms that we are now implementing are so well implemented. But speed should be the order of the day.
Moving to another area which also is related to that, Mr. President, of local government. A lot of challenges there. In fact, service delivery has really been one of the big issues in the country. You addressed the ANC cadres a few days ago, where you emphasized and you spoke very extensively on this matter. But I think there's one area which, after speaking to your comrades, that caught the headlines. You basically said they need to learn from the opposition party, the DA. So were you taken out of context? Did you misspeak, or you meant it?
Well, when I spoke about what we need to do, I referred to the Auditor General's report. Auditor General issues reports every year. And the Auditor General correctly so looks at all our municipalities. And in some areas she has found that though there are municipalities that have clean audits, and I cited what she has always said publicly, that municipalities, for instance, in the Western Cape, have clean audits. But in the end, Mzwai, clean audits does not mean clean streets. clean audits does not mean the best governance. It's a compliance issue. There are quite a number of ANC-run municipalities that have clean audits. Now, we need to look at this issue in a comprehensive way or in a broader context. There's the compliance issue and there's the transformative issue.
Yes.
Now, when, and I know that many people in the DA got very excited and said, yeah, the president said this. And from a compliance point of view, a number of them are. But from a transformation point of view, they are not really meeting the mark. And a number of ANC municipalities meet the mark. For instance, if you were to talk to our people in Philippi, in Delft, in Kayamandi, in Langa, they will tell you that those clean audits are not resulting in the transformation of their lives where they live, because there are enormous challenges. And this is where, say, DA municipalities must learn a lot from the ANC municipalities. It was Oliver Reginald Tambo who said, it does not mean that those who you are opposed to do not sometimes do right things. You must learn from them, because they must also learn from you. They should also come to where the ANC has led real transformation. I give you a very good example.
Yeah.
You look at Soweto today, where I grew up. The Soweto that I grew up in is very different from the Soweto of today, because there's been real transformation. But if you talk to somebody in Langa, Philippi, Delft, they will tell you that Langa, Philippi, and Delft are still exactly the same way that they were in 1994. Meaning that there's been technical compliance with clean books. It has not led to clean streets. And one of the other things that I have found also with the Western Cape is that sometimes money is returned to the fiscus without having been spent. Yeah. So all in all of us need to learn from each other. Yeah. We need to learn where someone is doing good. Yeah. We must find out why they're doing good. That is exactly what O.R. Tambo taught us. He said, yeah, you must also learn from those
who
you oppose.
You've explained it, I think, so well here. Yeah. And at a public platform of the ANC, you only picked one example of the DA. Yes. And the impression was that you felt the DA is doing better than the ANC.
No.
And that is why there was such
brouhaha.
Yes, because that's how, and especially a year before the election. So, yes.
What I'm saying,
would you have phrased it better in hindsight, given what you said?
I should have talked about the full equation. And the full equation is there's the compliance issues and there's the transformative issues. And both need to go hand in hand. And when I made the example, I should have done a comprehensive one. Now, this clarifies it, because we should not be fixated on one area only. When we look at the performance of our governance, we must look at it comprehensively. There must be compliance there. There must also be transformation, improvement of the lives of our people. Yep. That must also be there.
And I'm harping on this point, Mr. President, because the chairperson, before you spoke, when the members stood up and sang, he basically said, so this is what you do in councils. You sing, but capacity, dololo. And then a few minutes later, the president says, learn from the DA. So clearly, that messaging perhaps got a different taste from
Maybe
the
you
ANC
could
members.
say it got lost in translation. In the end, we all must learn from each other. And that is important. That I will say as also the President of the Republic, that there are a number of areas where good work is being done. And there are others where there is weakness. And mature people must look at both and say, how can we improve the lives of South Africans? By looking at what others do and improving on it. And it's a two-way process. It should never be anyone, say, from the DA standing on the rooftops and saying, oh, the president said this about us, and others saying, no, why did he say? It should be, this is a call for us to be sober and look at both, because if we do what Oliver Tambo said we should do, learn from everyone, then you are able to bring about changes in people's lives.
But do you accept, Mr. President, that your weight as the president of the ANC and the country carries weight?
It does. It certainly does.
So what you said in public tends to be believed and believable.
But you see, what I said in public is about compliance.
Yeah.
The transformation part is precisely what we were talking about the whole weekend, because it is the transformation, the improvement of service delivery.
Yeah.
It is growing the economy. It is making sure that we improve the capacity of our local government. It is making sure that we do all that, we communicate better and we are honest with our people. Now, if you look at all our local government entities, you'll find that they don't succeed on all those areas. So therefore, we need to learn from each other. And I can tell you now, the experience that was achieved in, for instance, Soweto, is really second to none. And no one, even in the DA, can say we have done better than what was achieved there. Because what it has resulted in is transformation. And so therefore, what it does show is that we are capable of transforming lives through what we do in local government. So therefore, let's go ahead, because in the end, it's not only a balance sheet matter. It's not only a clean audit matter. What really matters is what changes are brought about in the lives of people.
Well, concluding on the issue around local government, I think one of the things, fortunately, I've been covering from day one, you have been really speaking about, is the issue of local government. We need to do right, get to the basics. Still, the same language is still spoken even now, Mr. President. What is the holdup?
Well, the reason why, as the ANC, we called this roll call, the action, call to action roll call, was precisely to reinvigorate the 4,800 or so representatives that we have at local government level, and to say our people are crying out for better service delivery. Our people want to see those that they elected serving them better. Our people want to see the potholes closed. They want to see less sewage getting into their houses. And I even said, if any one of us seated in that room were to find sewage water spilling into their homes, they will take action immediately. They will not even pause for a single day. So I was reinvigorating that approach and say, treat it like it is your home. Make sure that there is water. The pothole in front of somebody's house must be as good or as bad as the pothole in front of your house, which you must then take action to repair. Yeah. You must communicate with the people. You must tell them the truth and be honest and stop stealing the public's money. That's precisely what the message was all about.
You've said exactly that message.
Yes.
5, 6, 7 years ago.
Yes, sir.
Why have your people not listened to you?
Well, people tend to delay. People tend to be distracted by a number of things. People tend to focus on self-interest. And so if you like, I was evangelizing and hoping and believing that there will be converts as religious people evangelize. Yeah. You know, stressing on the message, stressing on the issues that need to be done. I am now confident that we will see change because we've put in place monitoring mechanisms. We've said we should also have rapid response teams. Yeah. We should be reporting within a 3-month period 6-month period, 9-month period, and mark the progress that is being made. Things have gone so bad that there's no further way to go than to go up and to improve what we've been doing. So I'm confident this time around that we are going to see change. And change is the only way in which we move forward. And the people who were in the meeting demonstrated to me that they are committed. I mean, the infighting in my own organization has also led to drawing us back and delaying the progress that we have. And we have said that infighting must stop. We must focus on serving the people.
Infighting must stop so that you serve the people. Yeah. You are in alliance with the SACP.
Yes, sir.
COSATU.
Yes.
As we sit here, your key ally, COSATU, is going it alone. Yes, it may not be infighting, but it's probably because of disagreements. Is the failure to reconfigure the alliance partly to blame for this?
By COSATU, you meant the SACP?
By the SACP.
SACP. Well, we've been in discussion with the SACP, with COSATU and with SANCO. All of us have been in discussion about the reconfiguration of the alliance.
It hasn't happened.
There have been different views. Yes. And I believe that much as the SACP has taken the decision it has taken, we are cascading towards what you could call an understanding of how the alliance working together can be put on a footing that can enable us to move forward, to lead the national democratic revolution and to change people's lives.
But how are you going to do that, Mr. President, when you fragment the very vote that is fragmenting already? I mean, if you look at 30 years ago, coming down now, you've been in electoral decline as the ANC.
Yes.
And then your key ally is saying, oh, well, we are also building our own house in a crucial election.
We have said, we are on record as the ANC as saying, we do not agree with the SACP's decision to stand for elections on their own. We do not agree. And we've communicated that to them. And we are obviously saying also, this is going to fragment our unity, it is going to weaken us, and we want the SACP to rethink this whole process. And I'm hoping that way before the elections, there will be a rethink. We will be able to sit back together and re-examine precisely how we should work together.
It's a conference resolution.
It's a conference resolution, but you know, people and organizations can sit back and re-examine, particularly in the light of what has been happening with a number of by-elections now. And many people are beginning to ask themselves whether this was the best way to move forward, or whether there is another way. I'm hoping that there is another way that we can craft together and still remain united moving forward.
The government of national unity.
Yes.
Because of the loss of votes, because of a number of issues that we've been speaking about. I know you normally say that is reserved for the president and the president alone. Any cabinet reshuffle in the offing?
You're absolutely right. That is an area that is reserved, fortunately in our constitution, for the president and the president alone. So things like reshuffling of the cabinet or whatever are matters that the president only speaks about when it happens.
Fortunately, the president, when he changes, he communicates to us. One of your deputy ministers from the DA, you dismissed. He hasn't been replaced. Has the DA given you the name to replace? So where are we with that one?
The DA has not yet given me a name. I did at the time say I expect a name from the DA. I'm going to be following it up with the DA to find out whether they still have a desire to table a name, because that is their slot. That is a place we have reserved for them. If they no longer have a desire to fill that slot, I have a number of ideas on how I can deal with that issue.
Like
So,
the ideas like?
a number of ideas which Mzandile I will announce at the right time. When you want to know in advance, you will know together with everyone else about this matter.
Maybe also touching on the ANC-related stuff to the GNU. In your last NEC, the regular one, you resolved as the NEC to engage partners within and outside the GNU about the possibility of expanding. Where are you with that?
Discussions are ongoing, and we are discussing. It's good to know that you don't know, because you tend to know things in advance, and sometimes you even know what is not happening. So discussions are underway, and that will all be disclosed at the right time.
Let's talk about still in the GNU. The GNU is quite an interesting area.
Animal,
put it that way. You serve with people who I think in your struggle days you never thought you'd serve with. I mean, someone like the Freedom Front Plus, for example. These are the people who you sit with. How is your relationship, for example, with Dr. Groenewald, someone that you work with? He's your minister now.
My relationship with all my ministers are good. I work well with them, and we all have a healthy respect for one another. And we all know that we are in the positions in which we are to serve the people of South Africa. And we relate to each other with a great deal of, respect and consideration. So my relationship with Dr. Groenewald is really good. It's absolutely wonderful. It's functional. We solve problems together, and so that is going well. You must remember that our great leader Nelson Mandela sat in the same cabinet with people who had oppressed the majority of our people, who had been responsible for a whole number of other atrocities that had been committed against the people of South Africa. So he taught us that you can work with your enemy, your erstwhile enemy rather. You can work with them and you can find solutions. And he also taught us that in the course of doing so, they will be able to see the good in you. They will also be able to see the values that you stand for. And in the course of that, they may also be able to change their viewpoints. Their worldview may change. And I mean, I have certainly found some of them beginning to see things, for instance, the way that we do. And of course, we are people who sharpen each other's intellect, and we have really robust intellectual discussions and debates. So that is a healthy way of interacting, even with your erstwhile enemies, even with your opponents. And even as you know that some of them are your competitors, you still have a way of finding a modus operandi of solving problems together.
I was mentioning someone like that because ideologically you are on opposite ends, and then of course the issue of the IFP as well, and many other parties. But I'm glad to hear you say you work well with everyone else. So you're still not going to give me an indication about the possible reshuffle?
Yes, not at all.
Not the date, just thereabout.
Not even, Mzai, not even. But so that is the preserve.
But it is going to come at some point.
It is the preserve of the president.
Yes.
And I think you and I are best leave it there.
Oh. And
when it happens, you will be amongst those who will know.
Okay. Let's move to international issues, Mr. President. In the coming days, you'll be traveling to the United Nations, and you'll be going to America. And we currently know our relations with America and how America is championing its own interest, perhaps at our expense, not only us as South Africa, but as many other countries. What is it that you've planned to do to try and reset the relations, or just to get a way of working for both countries to benefit from each other?
Well, there's a lot that we are doing at the moment. We've got a team of our people. The Minister of Trade and Industry and Competition is there, and his officials, and one of my key advisors are there. Meeting together with the US administration, talking about all the issues that have given rise to the souring of relations between the two countries, and also focusing on the trade issues. So discussions are happening on an ongoing basis, and I get reports each time there's a meeting. At 4 o'clock this morning, I was on a telephone call with our people there. They were reporting to me precisely how those discussions are going. They are meeting again today. And yes, you're right, I'll be heading to the US. In part, it is to attend the UN General Assembly meeting, 80th celebration of the existence of the UN. We will also be dealing with a meeting where a number of countries, France and the UK, will be giving recognition to Gaza, or rather to Palestine. And beyond that, I will also be interacting with a lot of business people. Business people who are keen to meet us. And you will not believe it, we've got about 154 requests for meetings.
This from international or US specifically?
Yeah, international as well as US. Many business people, even people who are in the legislators sort of cohort of the United States. So we are going to be very busy. We're going to be meeting a lot of people, and we're going to be putting South Africa's story on the table, explaining precisely what progress we are making. And of course, we want to finalize an agreement between the United States and South Africa. And we do believe that the fact that formal negotiations have now started, and it's no longer, tweets and social media messages, it's now formal negotiations. Our people are in the White House talking about important issues of trade and all that. That for us is a great advance. It's a great progress forward, and we are hoping that those discussions will be well concluded. And they are very, very complex. They involve a lot of detail. And we're working with various government departments, as well as the private sector, as well as with labor, because all the three key stakeholders are involved in this whole process. So it's not a one-man show. It is many, many people show. So I'm hoping that we will make progress with our trip there.
Maybe very quickly, Mr. President, on the sidelines, any possibility perhaps of meeting with President Trump, knowing that you will be handing over the G20 chairpersonship later on, and other leaders as well, on the sidelines of the UN? On the sidelines of the UN, I'm going to meet quite a number of other leaders of various nations. And I will also be at various functions. One of those is hosted by President Trump, who has invited me and many other leaders, and we will be there. And on the sidelines, we should be able to have some opportunity or so to talk. Are you likely perhaps to impress upon him to maybe rethink his stance on coming to South Africa for the G20 summit? That is one of the issues that we are going to also discuss. And as I've said in the past, I've said to him, I don't want to hand over the presidency of the G20 to an empty chair. Would prefer him to be there. But if he's not there, the G20 Leaders Summit will carry on in November in Nasrec. So we will carry on, and we will hand over to the United States, because that is now their responsibility to carry on with the leadership of the G20. I do believe that the United States will be represented. As to who will come. The Vice President, that's what they've said. Who will come is their choice, whether it's the Vice President or President Trump himself. What we do know is that the G20 summit
will carry on.
I know that we've been speaking about America a lot as well, but very briefly, in perhaps less than a minute, Mr. President. So, other key markets that we are looking at, I know America is very key, is very important, but there are other key markets that we are looking at. Perhaps very briefly.
Very briefly, after our visit to to New York, to the UN, we will be visiting a number of other countries, both on our continent as well as in Asia. We'll be going to Indonesia, we'll be going to Vietnam, we'll be going to Malaysia, and we will also be going to Europe to interact with them on a number of other important announcements they want to make. We'll be going to Switzerland and so forth. So there are lots of visits that we are going to undertake in this short space of time. So we're going to be very busy, and at the same time, we are expanding our market space on the African continent. A number of other countries on the continent are open as a market to South Africa, and we are also going to be exploiting those. So our journeys and our visits are going to be quite multiple in the next few months.
Moving towards closure, maybe this question still on the international front. In 2023, a resolution by the National Assembly was taken to close down the Israeli embassy.
Yes.
What has been the holdup?
We've been processing that, and I know that people are a bit impatient with our delay. The National Assembly took that decision, and the executive has been looking at all aspects of the implementation of that resolution. And it has involved, do we still have a role to play as South Africa to help bring about peace? A number of people say South Africa has a role to play to bring about peace, much as we've taken Israel to the International Court of Justice. Much as we have done that, they do believe that South Africa still can play a key role. We've been asking ourselves, what role can we play? How can we go about implementing that decision and all that? So it's been a full comprehensive examination of what the National Assembly decided. It's not that it's shelved underneath the carpet or anything. We tend to want to balance everything properly as we implement things.
I will be failing in my responsibility, Mr. President, if I don't ask you about your view on the current developments on the Mkhwanazi Commission. That's my last question.
Well,
Madlanga Commission, I'm sorry.
It's not the Mkhwanazi Commission.
Sorry about that.
The Madlanga Commission. I appointed the Madlanga Commission, and I was very delighted that the former the Constitutional Court Judge Madlanga accepted this mission. It's a very, very important mission. It's a very important mandate, and it's really going to deal with a number of issues that have dogged our criminal justice system, particularly when it comes to the role of police and what has been happening there. So a lot of things will be unraveled, and we do tend to want to have transparency. And thereafter, when the judge gives me the report on a periodic basis, we will be able to examine that report and the recommendations that are made and act on them. So in many ways, the Madlanga Commission process is what I would call going to be quite transformative. It's going to lead to a number of changes so that the rule of law is properly consolidated in our country.
Your impression so far on what you have seen?
I mean, some of the things that are being said are quite startling and worrying, and therefore I want to see the whole picture. I do not want to make a judgment on just first day or second day of presentations or evidence. We need to look at everything holistically, but the good thing about having a commission, which is headed by a judge, is that they will examine all the evidence and present us with a synthesis of what they have examined and with recommendations.
Yes.
So it's not that one is outsourcing one's responsibility. It is actually confirming that the right things should be done, and they will be done.
Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome.
Well, that was the ANC President and, of course, the President of the country speaking to us about a range of issues. Back to the studio.